111 U.S. Marine Corps Operations Fundamentals. AH-1W Cobra. Primary function, attack helicopter. Length, 58 feet, 17.67 meters. Height, 13.7 feet, 4.17 meters. Rotor diameter, 48 feet, 14.62 meters. Speed, 147 knots, 169.05 miles per hour, in basic combat attack configuration. Range, 256 nautical miles, 294.4 miles, in basic combat attack configuration. Ceiling, 18,700 feet, 5,703.5 meters, in basic combat attack configuration, limited to 10,000 feet, 3,050 kilometers, by oxygen requirements. Crew, 2 officers. Armament: 120 mm turreted cannon with 750 rounds. For external wing stations that can fire 2.75-inch and 5.0 rockets and a wide variety of precision-guided missiles to include TOW/Hellfire, point target/anti-armor. Sidewinder, anti-air. Sidearm, anti-radar. Mission, fire support and security for forward and rear area forces, point target/anti-armor, anti-helicopter, armed escort, supporting arms control and coordination, point and limited area air defense from enemy fixed-wing aircraft. Provide fire support and security for forward and rear area forces. Conduct point target/anti-armor operations. Conduct anti-helicopter operations. Provide armed escort, control, and coordination for assault support operations. Control, coordinate, and provide terminal ordnance for supporting arms. Provide point and limited area air defense from threat fixed-wing aircraft. Conduct armed and visual reconnaissance. Augment local SAR assets. Maintain the capability to operate from amphibious shipping, other floating bases, and austere shore bases as required. Maintain the capability to operate at night, in adverse weather conditions, and under instrument flight conditions at extended ranges. Perform organizational maintenance on assigned aircraft in all environmental conditions. Features: the AH-1W Super Cobra is a Marine Corps attack helicopter capable of operating in day, night, and limited visibility. The AH-1W provides en route escort for our assault helicopters and their embarked forces. The AH-1W is a two-place, tandem-seat, twin-engine helicopter capable of land or sea-based operations. The Cobra provides fire support and fire support coordination to the landing force during amphibious assaults and subsequent operations ashore. CH-53E Super Sea Stallion. Primary function, transportation of heavy equipment and supplies during the ship-to-shore movement of an amphibious assault and during subsequent operations ashore. Length, 99 feet 5 inches, 2.64 meters. Height, 28 feet 4 inches, 0.81 meters. Rotor diameter, 79 feet, 24.07 meters. Speed, 172.5 miles per hour, 150 knots. Range: without refueling, 621 miles. With aerial refueling, indefinite. Armament: 2 XM2 18.50 caliber machine guns. Crew: 4 pilot, co-pilot, crew chief, and first mechanic/aerial gunner. Mission: as the Marine Corps' heavy-lift helicopter designed for the transportation of material and supplies, the CH-53E is compatible with most amphibious-class ships and is carried routinely aboard LHA, landing, helicopter, assault, and amphibious assault ship, and LHD, landing, helicopter, dock, and amphibious assault ship, type ships. Capable of lifting 16 tons, 14.5 metric tons, at sea level, transporting the load 50 nautical miles, 57.5 miles, and returning. A typical load would be a 16,000-pound, 7,264 kilogram M198 howitzer or a 26,000-pound, 11,804 kilogram light armored vehicle. Can retrieve downed aircraft, including another CH-53E. Equipped with a refueling probe and can be refueled in flight, giving the helicopter indefinite range. Provide fire support and security for forward and rear area forces. Provide combat assault transport of heavy weapons, equipment, and supplies as a primary function. Provide combat assault transport of troops, exclusive of initial assault wave infantry, as a secondary function. Conduct tactical retrieval and recovery operation for downed aircraft, equipment, and personnel. Conduct assault support for evacuation operations and other maritime special operations. Provide support for FARPs. Augment local SAR assets and provide aeromedical evacuation of casualties from the field to suitable medical facilities or other aeromedical aircraft. Provide airborne control and coordination for assault support operations. Maintain the capability to deploy and conduct extended range operations by employing aerial refueling. Mission. Maintain a self-defense capability from ground-to-air and air-to-air threats. Maintain the capability to operate from amphibious shipping, other floating bases, and austere shore bases, as required. Maintain the capability to operate at night, in adverse weather conditions, and under instrument flight conditions at extended ranges. Perform organizational maintenance on assigned aircraft in all environmental conditions. Features: the CH-53E is a follow-on for its predecessor, the CH-53D. Improvements include the addition of a third engine to give the aircraft the ability to lift the majority of the Fleet Marine Forces equipment, a dual-point cargo hook system, improved main rotor blades, and composite tail rotor blades. The helicopter seats 37 passengers in its normal configuration and has provisions to carry 55 passengers with centerline seats installed. It can carry external loads at increased airspeeds due to the stability achieved with the dual-point system. Precision navigation is provided by an integrated global positioning system, GPS, and augmented by the helicopter night vision system forward-looking infrared sensor. Background: with 4.5 hours endurance, the CH-53E Super Stallion can mass combat power at long distances over rugged terrain, day or night. The Super Stallion has established itself as the prime workhorse of the Marine Corps' forward deployed units and has become a critical pillar in the expeditionary logistics capability for the future. The CH-53E has consistently proven its worth to the fleet commanders with its versatility and range. During Operation Eastern Exit, 2 CH-53Es launched from amphibious ships and flew 463 nautical miles, 532.45 miles, at night, refueling twice en route, to rescue American and foreign allies from the American embassy in the civil war-torn capital of Mogadishu, Somalia in January of 1990. 2 CH-53Es rescued Air Force Captain Scott O'Grady in Bosnia in June 1995, and the aircraft has been involved in multiple non-combatant evacuations. UH-1Y Huey. Primary function: utility helicopter. Length: 57.3 feet, 17.46 meters. Height: 14.9 feet, 4.54 meters. Rotor diameter: 48 feet, 14.62 meters. Speed: 121 knots, 139.15 miles per hour, at sea level. Range: 172 nautical miles, 197.8 miles. Crew: officer, 2, enlisted, 2. Armament: M247.62 mm machine gun or GAU 16.50 caliber machine gun or GAU 17.7.62 mm automatic gun. All 3 weapon systems are crew-served. and the GAU-2B/A can also be controlled by the pilot in the fixed forward firing mode. The helicopter can also carry two 7-shot or 19-shot 2.75-inch rocket pods. Mission: airborne command and control, combat assault, medical evacuation, maritime special operations, supporting arms control and coordination, fire support and security for forward and rear area forces. Provide an airborne command and control platform for CEs. Provide armed escort for assault support operations. Provide combat assault transport of troops, supplies, and equipment. Provide airborne control and coordination for assault support operations. Augment local SAR assets and provide aeromedical evacuation of casualties from the field to suitable medical facilities or other aeromedical aircraft. Conduct combat assault and assault support for evacuation operations and other maritime special operations. Control, coordinate, and provide terminal guidance for supporting arms. Provide fire support and security for forward and rear area forces. Maintain a self-defense capability from surface-to-air and air-to-air threats. Maintain the capability to operate from amphibious shipping, other floating bases, and austere shore bases, as required. Maintain the capability to operate at night, in adverse weather conditions, and under instrument flight conditions at extended ranges. Perform organizational maintenance on assigned aircraft in all environmental conditions. Features: the UH-1N is a twin-piloted, twin-engine helicopter used in command and control, resupply, casualty evacuation, liaison and troop transport. The Huey provides utility combat helicopter support to the landing force commander during ship-to-shore movement and in subsequent operations ashore. The aircraft can be outfitted to support operations such as command and control with a specialized communication package, ASC-26, supporting arms coordination, assault support, medical evacuation for up to 6 litter patients and 1 medical attendant, external cargo, search and rescue using a rescue hoist, and reconnaissance support. The currently fielding of the second-generation navigational thermal imaging system/forward-looking infrared radar for the UH-1N will increase its night mission capability. MV-22B Osprey. Primary function: assault transport of combat troops in the initial assault waves and follow-on stages of amphibious operations and subsequent operations ashore. Description: the MV-22 is a dual-piloted, multi-engine, self-deployable, medium-lift, vertical takeoff and landing (VTOL) tilt-rotor aircraft that provides combat assault support (CSS) and special operations support worldwide. Mission: the aircraft will operate from air-capable ships, main bases ashore, and austere forward operating locations. The MV-22 is capable of in-flight refueling, has a 2,100 nautical mile deployment range, and can carry 24 combat-equipped troops or a 10,000-pound external load. Provide combat assault troop transport as a primary function. Provide combat assault transport of supplies and equipment as a secondary function. Assault support for evac operations and other maritime special operation. Provide support for mobile FARPs. Provide airborne control and coordination for assault support operations. Maintain a self-defense capability from ground-to-air and air-to-air threats. Maintain the capability to operate from amphibious shipping, other floating bases, and austere shore bases. Maintain the capability to operate at night, in adverse weather conditions, and under instrument flight conditions at extended ranges. Augment local SAR assets and provide aeromedical evacuation of casualties from the field to suitable medical facilities or other aeromedical aircraft. Perform organizational maintenance on assigned aircraft in all environmental conditions. Variants: the CV-22 will be utilized by the Air Force and SOCOM for special operations missions, maintaining maximum commonality with the MV-22. Aircraft avionics, peculiar to Air Force/SOCOM unique mission requirements, constitute primary aircraft differences. The Navy will use the HV-22 for combat search and rescue and fleet logistics support. Dimensions: spread, length 57 foot 4 inch. Width 84 foot 7 inch, height 22.1. Folded, length 63 foot 0 inch. Width 18 foot 5 inch, height 18.1. Cruise airspeed: MV-22, 240 kts, 258 kts. CV-22, 230 kts. Planned inventory: 350 MV-22, USMC. 50 CV-22, U.S. Air Force. 48 HV-22, USN. EA-6B Prowler. Primary function: Airborne Electronic Warfare (EW), support to Fleet Marine Forces to include Electronic Attack (EA), Tactical Electronic Support (EAS), Electronic Protection (EPI), and High-Speed Anti-Radiation Missile (HARM). Length: 59 feet, 17.98 meters. Height: 15 feet, 4.57 meters. Wingspan: 53 feet, 16.15 meters. Speed: maximum 0.99 Mach, cruise 0.72 Mach. Range, unrefueled in combat configuration, 850 nautical miles, 977.5 miles. Refueled, unlimited, crew fatigue factor approximately 8 hours. Armament: ALQ-99 Tactical Jamming System, TJS, USQ-113 Communications Jammer High-Speed Anti-Radiation Missile, HARM. Sensors, ALQ-99 Onboard System, OBS, USQ-113 Communications Receiver. Crew, 4. Mission: the EA-6B's ALQ-99 OBS is used to collect Tactical Electronic Order of Battle (EOB) data, which can be recorded and processed after missions to provide updates to various orders of battle. The ALQ-99 TJS is used to provide active radar jamming support to assault support and attack aircraft, as well as ground units. Additional suppression of enemy air defenses (SEAD) capability is available with the employment of HARM. The USQ-113 communications jammer can detect and jam a wide range of communication frequencies to further degrade air defense and ground units' capabilities. Conduct airborne electronic attack (EA) and electronic warfare (EW) support operations. Conduct EA in support of training of FMF units or other forces as assigned. Process and provide mission data from tape recordings obtained on EW missions for updating and maintaining an electronic order of battle. Maintain the capability of operating from aircraft carriers, advanced bases, and expeditionary airfields. Maintain the capability to operate during darkness and under all weather conditions. Maintain the capability to deploy or conduct extended range operations that require aerial refueling. Perform organizational maintenance on assigned aircraft. Features: Marine prowlers may be land-based from prepared airfields, or operate from expeditionary airfields, EAF. They may also be sea-based, operating from aircraft carriers. Marine prowlers are unique in their integration with the Tactical Electronic Reconnaissance Processing and Evaluation System, TERPS. TERPS provides post-mission analysis of EA-6B data for reporting and updating orders of battle for EA-6B and MAGTF mission planning. It also provides post-mission analysis of jamming and HARM employment for reporting, assessing, and storing mission data. Marine prowlers may be land-based from prepared airfields, or operate from expeditionary airfields, EAF. They may also be sea-based, operating from aircraft carriers. Marine prowlers are unique in their integration with the Tactical Electronic Reconnaissance Processing and Evaluation System, TERPS. TERPS provides post-mission analysis of EA-6BES data for reporting and updating orders of battle for EA-6B and MAGTF mission planning. It also provides post-mission analysis of jamming and harm employment for reporting, assessing, and storing mission data. AV-8B Harrier 2. Primary function: attacks and destroys surface targets under day and night visual meteorological conditions and provides helicopter escort. Length: 46.3 feet, 14.11 meters. Wingspan: 30.3 feet, 9.24 meters. Cruise speed: subsonic to transonic. Ferry range: 2,100 nautical miles. 2,416.64 miles. Combat radius: close air support 163 nautical miles, 187.45 miles, with 30 minutes time on station. Interdiction: 454 nautical miles, 522.45 miles. Armament: 7 external store stations, comprising 6 wing stations for AIM-9 Sidewinder and an assortment of air-to-ground weapons. External fuel tanks and AGM-65 Maverick missiles. 1 centerline station for a DECM pod. A GAU-12 25mm 6-barrel gun pod and accompanying ammunition pod can be mounted either side of centerline and has a 300-round capacity with a lead computing optical sight system, LCOS. Crew: 1. Mission: the mission of the VMA Stadl Squadron is to attack and destroy surface and air targets, to escort helicopters, and to conduct other such air operations as may be directed. Specific tasks of the AV-8B Harrier 2 include: conduct close air support using conventional and specific weapons. Conduct deep air support, to include armed reconnaissance and air interdiction, using conventional and specific weapons. Conduct offensive and defensive anti-air warfare. This includes combat air patrol, armed escort missions, and offensive missions against enemy ground-to-air defenses, all within the capabilities of the aircraft. Be able to operate and deliver ordnance at night and to operate under instrument flight conditions. Be able to deploy for extended operations employing aerial refueling. Be able to deploy to and operate from carriers and other suitable seagoing platforms, advanced bases, expeditionary airfields, and remote tactical landing sites. Conduct close air support. Conduct armed reconnaissance, air interdiction, and strikes against enemy installations by using all types of conventional munitions that are compatible with assigned aircraft. Conduct air defense operations within the capability of assigned aircraft. Maintain the capability to operate during darkness and under instrument conditions. Maintain the capability of deployment or extended operations by employing aerial refueling. Maintain the capability to operate from aboard carriers, other suitable seagoing platforms, expeditionary airfields, and remote tactical landing sites. Conduct armed escort missions in support of helicopter operations. Perform organizational maintenance on assigned aircraft on infantry weapons. It is also capable of performing organizational maintenance on assigned aircraft and support equipment. Features: the AV-8BV/STOL strike aircraft was designed to replace the AV-8A and the A-4M light attack aircraft. The Marine Corps requirement for a V/STOL light attack force has been well documented since the late 1950s. Combining tactical mobility, responsiveness, reduced operating cost and basing flexibility, both afloat and ashore, V/STOL aircraft are particularly well suited to the special combat and expeditionary requirements of the Marine Corps. The AV-8BI Plus features the APG-65 radar common to the F/A-18, as well as all previous systems and features common to the AV-8B Harrier 2. KC-130F/R/T/J Hercules. Primary function, aerial refueling service in support of Fleet Marine Force, FMF, air operations and provides assault air transport of personnel, equipment, and supplies. Length, aircraft, 97 feet, 9 inches, 22.16 meters. Cargo compartment, 41 feet, 12.49 meters. Width of cargo compartment, 10 feet, 3 inches, 3.12 meters. Height, aircraft, 38 feet, 4 inches, 11.68 meters. Cargo compartment, 9 feet, 2.74 meters. Wingspan, 132 feet, 7 inches, 40.39 meters. Speed, 315 knots, 362.25 miles per hour. Range, tanker mission, 1,000 nautical mile, 1,150 mile, radius with 45,000 pounds of fuel, 20,430 kilograms, KC-130 Cargo mission, 2,875 nautical miles, 3,306.25 miles, with 38,258 pounds, 17,369 kilograms of cargo, KC-130 or 92 combat troops or 64 paratroopers or 74 litters. Landing distance, less than 2,600 feet. Crew, 2 pilots, 1 navigator/systems operator, 1 flight engineer, 1 first mechanic, 1 to 2 loadmasters. Mission, the KC-130 is a multi-role, multi-mission tactical tanker/transport, which provides the support required by Marine Air-Ground Task Forces. Provide tactical aerial refueling service to FMF units. Provide long-range aerial refueling service for air movement of FMF squadrons when other suitable means of aerial refueling services are not readily available. Provide assault air transport for air-landed and air-delivered troops, supplies, and equipment when other suitable means of assault air transport are not readily available. Provide an aircraft platform for the airborne DASC. Provide ground refueling service to aircraft when other suitable means of aircraft refueling are not available. Provide air transport service for the evacuation of casualties and non-combatants when other means of transportation are not available. Within the capability of assigned aircraft and equipment, maintain the capability to operate under day, night, and all-weather flying conditions, operate to from a logistic airhead, advanced base, expeditionary airfield, or tactical landing zone in the objective area or battle area, and operate with or without the assistance of airborne, surface, or ground controllers. Features: the KC-130 is equipped with a removable 3,600-gallon, 136.26 hectoliter stainless steel fuel tank that is carried inside the cargo compartment, providing additional fuel when required. The 2 wing-mounted hose and drogue refueling pods each transfer up to 300 gallons per minute, 1,135.5 liters per minute, to 2 aircraft simultaneously, allowing for rapid cycle times of multiple receiver aircraft formations, a typical tanker formation of 4 aircraft in less than 30 minutes. Some KC-130s are also equipped with defensive electronic and infrared countermeasures systems. Development is currently underway for the incorporation of interior/exterior night vision lighting, night vision goggle heads-up displays, global positioning system, and jam-resistant radios. F-18A divided by B divided by C divided by D divided by G Hornet. Primary function: intercept and destroy enemy aircraft under all weather conditions and attack and destroy surface targets. Length: 56 feet, 17.06 meters. Wingspan: 37.5 feet, 11.43 meters. Cruise speed: high subsonic to supersonic. Ferry range: over 2,000 nautical miles, 2,300 miles. Combat radius. Fighter mission: 400 nautical miles, 460 miles. Attack mission: 575 nautical miles, 661.25 miles. Armament. 9 external wing stations. Comprising 2 wingtip stations for an assortment of air-to-air and air-to-ground weapons, including AIM-7 Sparrows, AIM-9 Sidewinders, AMRAAMs, AGM-84 Harpoons, AGM-65 Maverick missiles. 2 inboard wing stations for external fuel tanks or air-to-ground stations. 2 nacelle fuselage stations for Sparrows or AN/AAS-38 forward-looking infrared radar, FLIR, pods. A center station for fuel tank or air-to-ground weapons. Air-to-ground weapons include all GBU series bombs, JSOW, JDAM, Mk-80 series general-purpose bombs, and CBU-59 cluster bombs. An M61 20mm 6-barrel gun is mounted in the nose and has a McDonnell Douglas director gun sight. Crew: 1F/A-18AC, 2F/A-18B. Mission: specific F divided by a -18A divided by C tasks include: intercept and destroy enemy aircraft in conjunction with ground or airborne fighter control under all weather conditions. Conduct day and night close air support under the weather. Conduct day and night precision deep air support under the weather. Deep air support consists of radar search and attack, interdiction, and strikes against enemy installations using all types of weapons compatible with assigned aircraft. Conduct armed escort of friendly aircraft. Conduct day and night suppression of enemy air defense, SEAD. Be able to operate from carriers, advanced bases, and expeditionary airfields. Be able to deploy or conduct extended range ops employing aerial refueling. Intercept and destroy enemy aircraft in conjunction with ground or airborne fighter control under all weather conditions. Maintain the capability to attack and destroy surface targets by using all types of conventional weapons that are compatible with assigned aircraft. Provide escort of friendly aircraft under all weather conditions. Maintain the capability to deploy and operate from aircraft carriers and advanced bases. Conduct day and night CAS under adverse weather conditions. Maintain the capability to deploy or conduct extended range operations by using aerial refueling. Maintain the capability to conduct suppression of enemy air defense (SEAD) operations. Perform organizational maintenance on assigned aircraft. Features: the Marine Corps F divided by a -18A divided by C strike fighter multi-mission aircraft was designed to replace the F-4 Phantom. The F divided by a -18A divided by C Hornet is missionized for traditional fighter, attack, and close air support roles through selection of external pods/equipment to accomplish specific mission objectives. Any aircraft can quickly be configured to perform either fighter or attack missions, or both, thus providing the Marine Air Ground Task Force (MAGTF) commander more flexibility in employing his tactical aircraft in a rapidly changing scenario. Marine F/A-18S may be land-based from prepared airfields, or they can operate from expeditionary airfields (EAF). They may also be sea-based, operating from the decks of aircraft carriers. F-35A/B/C Lighting II Joint Strike Fighter, JSF. Primary function is a family of single-seat, single-engine, all-weather multi-role fighter undergoing testing and final development by the United States. The fifth-generation combat aircraft is designed to perform ground attack, aerial reconnaissance, and air defense missions. Length: 50.5 feet, 15.67 meters. Wingspan: 35 feet, 10.7 meters. Cruise speed: 1,043 knots. Ferry range: 1,200 nmi/220 kilometers on internal fuel. Combat radius: 613 nmi, 1,135 kilometers, on internal fuel. Armament: the F-35A is armed with a GAU-22/A, a 4-barrel version of the 25mm GAU-12 equalizer cannon. The cannon is mounted internally with 182 rounds for the F-35A or in an external pod with 220 rounds for the F-35B and F-35C. The gun pod has stealth features. The F-35 has 2 internal weapons bays, and external hardpoints for mounting up to 4 underlying pylons and 2 near the wingtip pylons. The 2 outer hardpoints can carry pylons for the AIM-9X Sidewinder and AIM-132 Osram short-range air-to-air (AM) only. The other pylons can carry the AIM-120 AMRAAM BVR AAM Storm Shadow Cruise Missile, AGM-158 Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile, JASSM Cruise Missile, Guided Bombs. The external pylons can carry missiles, bombs, and external fuel tanks at the expense of increased radar cross-section, thus reduced stealth. There are a total of 4 weapons stations between the 2 internal bays. 2 of these carry air-to-surface missiles up to 2,910 kilograms in A and C models, or 2 bombs up to 1,000 pounds, 450 kilograms, in the B model. The other 2 stations are for smaller weapons such as air-to-air missiles. Crew 1. Mission, ground attack, aerial reconnaissance, and air defense missions. Features: the JSF program was designed to replace the United States military F-16, A-10, F/A-18, excluding newer E/F Super Hornet variants, and AV-8B tactical fighter and attack aircraft. The F-35 has 3 main models. F-35A conventional takeoff and landing (CTOL) variant. F-35B short takeoff and vertical landing (STOL) variant. F-35C carrier-based catapult-assisted takeoff barrier arrested recovery (CATABAR) variant. Be able to operate from carriers, advanced bases, and expeditionary airfields. Be able to deploy or conduct extended range ops employing aerial refueling. Features: Marine F divided by a -18D aircraft are unique within the Department of the Navy because the Marine Corps employs the F divided by a -18D as a tactical strike aircraft while the Navy uses it as a trainer. Marine F/A-18DS may be land-based from prepared airfields, or they can operate from expeditionary airfields, EAF. They may also be sea-based, operating from the decks of Navy aircraft carriers. Primary mission of classes of ships used to support the Marine Corps mission. LHI. The primary warfighting mission of the LHA-1 Tarawa class is to land and sustain United States Marines on any shore during hostilities. The ships serve as the centerpiece of a multi-ship amphibious readiness group, ARG. Some 3,000 sailors and Marines contribute to a forward-deployed ARG composed of approximately 5,000 personnel. LHD. The WASP-class LHD is the largest amphibious ship in the world. The LHD is an improved follow-on to the 5-ship Tarawa-class LHAs, sharing the basic hull and engineering plant. The LHD has an enhanced well deck, enabling it to carry 3 LCACs, vice 1 LCAC in the LHAs. The flight deck and elevator scheme is also improved, which allows the ship to carry 2 more helicopters than its predecessor, the LHA. LPD. The LPD for Austin class of ship combines the functions of 3 different classes of ships: the landing ship, LSD, the tank landing ship, LST, and the attack cargo ship, LKA. The amphibious transport, dock, is used to transport and land Marines, their equipment and supplies by embarked landing craft or amphibious vehicles augmented by helicopters in amphibious assault. These ships are configured as a flagship and provide extensive command, control and communications facilities to support an amphibious task force commander and landing force commander. In an amphibious assault, the ship would normally function as the primary control ship that would be responsible for coordinating boat waves and vectoring landing craft to the beach. LSD. The primary mission of the Harper's Ferry, cargo variant, ship is to dock, transport and launch the Navy's landing craft air cushion, LCAC, vessels and other amphibious craft and vehicles with crews and Marines into potential trouble spots around the world. The ship also has the capability to act as primary control ship during an amphibious assault. LCU. Landing Craft Utility, LCU. Landing craft are used by amphibious forces to transport equipment and troops to the shore. They are capable of transporting tracked or wheeled vehicles and troops from amphibious assault ships to beachheads or piers. The use of landing craft in amphibious assault dates from World War II. The craft are carried aboard amphibious assault ships to the objective area. The mission of the LCU is to land/retrieve personnel and equipment, tanks, artillery, equipment, motor vehicles, during amphibious operations. LCUs are scheduled to land personnel and equipment after the initial assault waves of an amphibian operation. The LCU has the capability of sustained sea operations for approximately 7 days. Each LCU has its own galley and berthing spaces. LCAC. The Landing Craft, Air Cushion, LCAC. Transport weapon systems, equipment, cargo and personnel of the assault elements of the Marine Air/Ground Task Force both from ship to shore and across the beach. The Landing Craft Air Cushion, LCAC, is a high-speed, over-the-beach fully amphibious landing craft capable of carrying a 60 to 75-ton payload. Capable of operating from existing and planned well-decked ships, it is used to transport weapon systems, equipment, cargo and personnel from ship to shore and across the beach. The advantages of air cushion landing craft are numerous. They can carry heavy payloads, such as an M1 tank, at high speeds. Their payload and speed mean more forces reach the shore in a shorter time, with shorter intervals between trips. TAH, Sea Lift. 2 hospital ships, Comfort and Mercy, HSS, operated by Military Sea Lift Command are designed to provide emergency, on-site care for U.S. combatant forces deployed in war or other operations. Hospital ships have 2 missions. First, to provide a mobile, flexible, rapidly responsive afloat medical capability to provide acute medical and surgical care in support of amphibious task forces, Marine Corps, Army, and Air Force elements, and forward deployed Navy elements. Secondly, to provide a full-service hospital asset for use by other government agencies involved in the support of disaster relief and humanitarian operations worldwide. The HSS mission in joint operations is to minimize the effects of wounds, injuries, and disease on unit effectiveness, readiness, and morale. This mission is accomplished by a proactive preventive medicine (PMED) program and a phased healthcare system, echelons of care, that extends from actions taken at the point of wounding, injury, or illness to evacuation from a theater for treatment at a hospital in the continental United States, CONUS. One measure of this system's effectiveness is its ability to save life and limb, to reduce the disease and non-battle injury (DNBI) rate, and to return patients to duty quickly and as far forward in the theater as possible. Another measure is the system's ability to stabilize patients for evacuation to the communications zone, COMMZ, or out of the theater as appropriate, within the operational evacuation policy guidelines, and with minimum delay of the fleet and fleet activities located in areas where hostilities may be imminent. TAK, Sea Lift. Each of the 5 ships of the TAK 3000 Corporal Louis J. Hoagie Jr. class carries a full range of Marine Corps cargo, enough cargo to support a Marine Air Ground Task Force for 30 days. Each ship has lift-on/lift-off capabilities, as well as roll-on/roll-off capabilities. Navy lighterage carried on board consists of causeways, both powered and unpowered, and small boats to move them around. They are certified to land up to CH-53E helicopters on board. They also have break bulk cargo capacity, which is used for carrying general cargo. The ships are pre-positioned in Diego Garcia. 13 MSC prepositioning ships are specially configured to transport supplies for the U.S. Marine Corps. Known as the Maritime Prepositioning Force, the 13 ships were built or modified in the mid-1980s and are on location in the Western Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. The 13 Maritime Prepositioning Ships, or MPS, contain nearly everything the Marines need for initial military operations, from tanks and ammunition to food and fuel to spare parts and engine oil. Difference between war and military operations other than war, motu. War, when instruments of national power are unable to achieve national objectives or protect national interests any other way, the U.S. national leadership may decide to conduct large-scale, sustained combat operations to achieve national objectives or protect national interests, placing the United States in a wartime state. In such cases, the goal is to win as quickly and with as few casualties as possible, achieving national objectives and concluding hostilities on terms favorable to the United States and its multinational partners. MUTU focuses on deterring war, resolving conflict, promoting peace, and supporting civil authorities in response to domestic crises. MUTU may involve elements of both combat and non-combat operations in peacetime, conflict, and war situations. MUTU involving combat, such as peace enforcement, may have many of the same characteristics of war, including active combat operations and employment of most combat capabilities. MUTU. All military operations are driven by political considerations. However, MUTU are more sensitive to such considerations due to the overriding goal to prevent, preempt, or limit potential hostilities. In MOOTW, political considerations permeate all levels and the military may not be the primary player. As a result, these operations normally have more restrictive rules of engagement, ROE, than in war. As in war, the goal is to achieve national objectives as quickly as possible and conclude military operations on terms favorable to the United States and its allies. However, the purposes of conducting MUTU may be multiple, with the relative importance or hierarchy of such purposes changing or unclear, for example, to deter potential aggressors, protect national interests, support the United Nations, UN, or other regional organizations, satisfy treaty obligations, support civil authorities, or provide humanitarian assistance, HA. The specific goal of MUTU may be peaceful settlement, assistance rendered to civil authorities, or providing security for HA. The Department of Defense, DoD, is often in a support role to another agency, such as the Department of State, DOS, in HA operations. However, in certain types of operations DoD is the lead agency, such as in peace enforcement operations, PO. These operations usually involve interagency coordination and may also involve non-governmental organizations, NGOs, or private voluntary organizations, PVOs. Finally, although MUTU are generally conducted outside of the United States, some types may be conducted within the United States in support of civil authorities consistent with established law. Arms control. A concept that predicts any plan, arrangement, or process, resting upon explicit or implicit international agreement. Arms control governs any aspect of the following: the numbers, types, and performance characteristics of weapon systems, including the command and control, logistic support arrangements, and any related intelligence gathering mechanism, and the numerical strength, organization, equipment, deployment or employment of the armed forces retained by the parties. It encompasses disarmament. Additionally, it may connote those measures taken for the purpose of reducing instability in the military environment. Although it may be viewed as a diplomatic mission, the military can play an important role. For example, U.S. military personnel may be involved in verifying an arms control treaty, seizing WMD, nuclear, biological, and chemical or conventional, escorting authorized deliveries of weapons and other materials, such as enriched uranium, to preclude loss or unauthorized use of these assets, or dismantling, destroying, disposing of weapons and hazardous material. All of these actions help reduce threats to regional security. Other examples include military support for the conventional armed forces in Europe treaty by conducting and hosting site inspections, participating in military data exchanges, and implementing armament reductions. Finally, the U.S. military's implementation of Vienna Document 1992 confidence and security building measures such as unit/formation inspections, exercise notifications/observations, air and ground base visits, and military equipment demonstrations are further examples of arms control. Combating terrorism involves actions taken to oppose terrorism from wherever the threat. It includes anti-terrorism, defensive measures taken to reduce vulnerability to terrorist acts, and counter-terrorism, offensive measures taken to prevent, deter, and respond to terrorism. Anti-terrorism programs form the foundation for effectively combating terrorism. The basics of such programs include training and defensive measures that strike a balance among the protection desired, the mission, infrastructure, and available manpower and resources. The U.S. government may provide anti-terrorism assistance to foreign countries under the provisions of Chapter 2 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. Joint Pub 3-7.2, JTTP for Anti-Terrorism, provides detailed guidance on this subject. Counter-terrorism provides response measures that include preemptive, retaliatory, and rescue operations. Normally, counter-terrorism operations require specially trained personnel capable of mounting swift and effective action. DoD provides specially trained personnel and equipment in a supporting role to governmental lead agencies. Counterterrorism is a principal special operations mission. See Joint Pub 3-05, Doctrine for Joint Special Operations. DOS, Department of Justice, DOJ, specifically the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the Department of Transportation, DOD, specifically the Federal Aviation Administration, receive lead agency designation according to terrorist incident location and type. DOS is the lead agency for incidents that take place outside the United States, DOJ is the lead agent for incidents that occur within the United States, and DOT is the lead agent for incidents aboard aircraft in flight within the special jurisdiction of the United States. The Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs resolves any uncertainty on the designation of lead agency or responsibilities. Enforcement of sanctions/maritime intercept operations. Operations which employ coercive measures to interdict the movement of certain types of designated items into or out of a nation or specified area. These operations are military in nature and serve both political and military purposes. The political objective is to compel a country or group to conform to the objectives of the initiating body. The military objective is to establish a barrier which is selective, allowing only those goods authorized to enter or exit. Depending on geography, sanction enforcement normally involves some combination of air and surface forces. Assigned forces should be capable of complementary mutual support and full communications compatibility. An example of sanctions enforcement is Operation Support Democracy, conducted off the coast of Haiti beginning in 1993. Enforcing exclusion zones. An exclusion zone is established by a sanctioning body to prohibit specified activities in a specific geographic area. Exclusion zones can be established in the air, no-fly zones, sea, maritime, or on land. The purpose may be to persuade nations or groups to modify their behavior to meet the desires of the sanctioning body or face continued imposition of sanctions, or use or threat of force. The measures are usually imposed by the UN or other international bodies of which the United States is a member. However, they may also be imposed unilaterally by the United States. Exclusion zones are usually imposed due to breaches of international standards of human rights or flagrant abuse of international law regarding the conduct of states. Situations which may warrant such action include the persecution of the civil population by a government, to deter an attempt by a hostile nation to acquire territory by force. The sanctions may create economic, political, military, or other conditions where the intent is to change the behavior of the offending nation. Examples of enforcement of exclusion zones are Operation Southern Watch in Iraq, initiated in 1992. Operation Deny Flight in Bosnia, initiated in 1993. Ensuring freedom of navigation and overflight. These operations are conducted to demonstrate U.S. or international rights to navigate sea or air routes. Freedom of navigation is a sovereign right according to international law. International law has long recognized that a coastal state may exercise jurisdiction and control within its territorial sea in the same manner that it can exercise sovereignty over its own land territory. International law accords the right of innocent passage to ships of other nations through a state's territorial waters. Passage is innocent as long as it is not prejudicial to the peace, good order, or security of the coastal state. The high seas are free for reasonable use of all states. Freedom of navigation by aircraft through international airspace is a well-established principle of international law. Aircraft threatened by nations or groups through the extension of airspace controlled zones outside the established international norms will result in legal measures to rectify the situation. These norms are developed by the International Civil Aviation Organization. An example is the Berlin Air Corridors that existed from 1948 until 1990, allowing air access to West Berlin. The Attain Documents series of operations against Libya in 1986 are examples of freedom of navigation operations, both air and sea, in the Gulf of Sidra. Humanitarian Assistance, HA. HA operations relieve or reduce the results of natural or man-made disasters or other endemic conditions such as human pain, disease, hunger, or privation in countries or regions outside the United States. HA provided by U.S. forces is generally limited in scope and duration. It is intended to supplement or complement efforts of host nation, HN, civil authorities or agencies with the primary responsibility for providing assistance. DoD provides assistance when the relief need is gravely urgent and when the humanitarian emergency dwarfs the ability of normal relief agencies to effectively respond. The U.S. military can respond rapidly to emergencies or disasters and achieve order in austere locations. U.S. forces can provide logistics, command, control, communications, and computers, and the planning required to initiate and sustain HA operations. HA operations may be directed by the NCA when a serious international situation threatens the political or military stability of a region considered of interest to the United States, or when the NCA deems the humanitarian situation itself sufficient and appropriate for employment of U.S. forces. DOS, or the U.S. ambassador in country, is responsible for declaring a foreign disaster or situation that requires HA. Within DoD, the Under-Secretary of Defense for Policy has the overall responsibility for developing the military policy for international HA operations. HA operations may cover a broad range of missions. An HA mission could also include securing an environment to allow humanitarian relief efforts to proceed. U.S. military forces participate in three basic types of HA operations: those coordinated by the UN, those where the United States acts in concert with other multinational forces, or those where the United States responds unilaterally. Examples of humanitarian assistance are Operations SEA Angel I, conducted in 1991. SEA Angel II, conducted in 1992, to provide assistance in the aftermath of devastating natural disasters in Bangladesh. Military support to civil authorities. These operations provide temporary support to domestic civil authorities when permitted by law, and are normally taken when an emergency overtaxes the capabilities of the civil authorities. Support to civil authorities can be as diverse as temporary augmentation of air traffic controllers and postal workers during strikes, restoration of law and order in the aftermath of riots, protection of life and federal property, or providing relief in the aftermath of a natural disaster. Authority for additional support to law enforcement officials is contained in DoD Directive 5525.5, DoD cooperation with civilian law enforcement officials, and permits such support as loan of equipment, use of facilities, training, and transfer of information. Support is constrained in some instances by the Economy Act, 31 U.S. Code Section 1535, which may require the requesting agency to provide reimbursement. Limitations on military forces in providing support to civil authorities include, among others, the Posse Comitatus Act, Title 18, U.S. Code Section 1385. Use of Army and Air Forces as Posse Comitatus. This act prohibits the use of federal military forces to enforce or otherwise execute laws unless expressly authorized by the Constitution or Act of Congress. Statutory exceptions to the Posse Comitatus Act which allow active duty military members to respond to civil disturbances are included under Title 10 Sections 331 to 333, Request from a State, 331, Enforcement of Federal Law, 332, and Protection of Civil Rights, 333. Additional important exceptions to Posse Comitatus are found in Title 10 Sections 371 to 380. Examples of military support to civil authorities are disaster relief provided during Hurricanes Andrew in Florida and Iniki in Hawaii in 1992. Deployment of troops during a civil disturbance in California in 1992. Under DoD Directive 3025.1, Military Support to Civil Authorities, the Secretary of the Army is designated the executive agent for MSCA. Nation assistance/support to counterinsurgency. Civil or military assistance, other than HA, rendered to a nation by U.S. forces within that nation's territory during peacetime, crises or emergencies, or war, based on agreements mutually concluded between the United States and that nation. Nation assistance operations support a HN by promoting sustainable development and growth of responsive institutions. The goal is to promote long-term regional stability. Nation assistance programs often include, but are not limited to, security assistance, FID, and HCA. All nation assistance actions are integrated through the U.S. Ambassador's Country Plan. Security assistance. Security assistance refers to a group of programs by which the United States provides defense articles, military training, and other defense-related services to foreign nations by grant, loan, credit, or cash sales in furtherance of national policies and objectives. Some examples of U.S. security assistance programs are Foreign Military Sales, Foreign Military Financing Program, International Military Education and Training Program, Economic Support Fund, and commercial sales licensed under the Arms Export Control Act. Security assistance surges. Security assistance surges accelerate release of equipment, supplies, or services when an allied or friendly nation faces an imminent military threat. Security assistance surges are military in nature and are focused on providing additional combat systems, weapons and equipment, or supplies, but may include the full range of security assistance, to include financial and training support. Non-combatant evacuation operations, NEOs. These operations normally relocate threatened non-combatants from a foreign country. Although principally conducted to evacuate U.S. citizens, NEOs may also include selective evacuation of citizens from the HN as well as citizens from other countries. NEO methods and timing are significantly influenced by diplomatic considerations. Under ideal circumstances there may be little or no opposition, however, commanders should anticipate opposition and plan the operation like any combat operation. NEOs are similar to a raid in that the operation involves swift insertion of a force, temporary occupation of objectives, and ends with a planned withdrawal. It differs from a raid in that force used is normally limited to that required to protect the evacuees and the evacuation force. Forces penetrating foreign territory to conduct a NEO should be kept to the minimum consistent with mission accomplishment and the security of the force and the extraction and protection of evacuees. Pursuant to Executive Order 12656, the DOS is responsible for the protection and evacuation of American citizens abroad and for guarding their property. This order also directs the DoD to advise and assist the DOS in preparing and implementing plans for the evacuation of U.S. citizens. The U.S. Ambassador, or Chief of the Diplomatic Mission, is responsible for the preparation of emergency action plans that address the military evacuation of U.S. citizens and designated foreign nationals from a foreign country. The conduct of military operations assist implementation of emergency action plans is the responsibility of the geographic combatant commander. Evacuation operations are characterized by uncertainty. Evacuation operations may be directed without warning because of sudden changes in a country's government, reoriented political or military relationship with the United States, a sudden hostile threat to U.S. citizens from elements within or external to a foreign country, or in response to a natural disaster. Joint Pub 3-7.5, JTTP for non-combatant evacuation operations, provides detailed guidance. Examples of NEO are: Eastern Exit, conducted in 1991, when U.S. and foreign national personnel were evacuated from Somalia. Quick Lift, also conducted in 1991, when personnel were evacuated from Zaire. Peace operations. Military operations to support diplomatic efforts to reach a long-term political settlement and categorized as peacekeeping operations, PKO, and peace enforcement operations. PO are conducted in conjunction with the various diplomatic activities necessary to secure a negotiated truce and resolve the conflict. Additional types of MOOTW, example HA and NEO, may complement peace operations. Military PO are tailored to each situation and may be conducted in support of diplomatic activities before, during, or after conflict. Peacekeeping operations. PKO are military operations undertaken with the consent of all major parties to a dispute, designed to monitor and facilitate implementation of an agreement, ceasefire, truce, or other such agreements, and support diplomatic efforts to reach a long-term political settlement. An example of PKO is the U.S. commitment to the multinational force observers in the Sinai since 1982. Joint Pub 3-7.3, JTTP for peace operations, in draft, provides additional information on peacekeeping peace enforcement operations. PO are the application of military force, or threat of its use, normally pursuant to international authorization, to compel compliance with resolutions or sanctions designed to maintain or restore peace and order. PEO missions include intervention operations, as well as operations to restore order, enforce sanctions, forcibly separate belligerents, and establish and supervise exclusion zones for the purpose of establishing an environment for truce or ceasefire. Unlike PKO, such operations do not require the consent of the states involved or of other parties to the conflict. Examples of PEO are: Operation Power Pack, conducted in the Dominican Republic in 1965. The Secondary Effort in Somalia, UNITAF, 1992 to 1993. Relationship of peace operations to diplomatic activities. U.S. military peace operations support political objectives and diplomatic objectives. Military support improves the chances for success in the peace process by lending credibility to diplomatic actions and demonstrating resolve to achieve viable political settlements. In addition to PO, the military may conduct operations in support of the following diplomatic peace activities: preventive diplomacy. Preventive diplomacy consists of diplomatic actions taken in advance of a predictable crisis to prevent or limit violence. Military support to diplomacy may, for example, take the form of a preventive deployment. An example is Operation Able Sentry, where U.S. forces deployed in 1993 to Macedonia in support of the UN effort to limit the fighting in the former Republic of Yugoslavia. Peacemaking. Peacemaking is the process of diplomacy, mediation, negotiation, or other forms of peaceful settlements that arranges an end to a dispute and resolves issues that led to conflict. Military activities that support peacemaking include military-to-military relations and security assistance. Peace building. Peace building consists of post-conflict actions, predominantly diplomatic and economic, that strengthen and rebuild governmental infrastructure and institutions in order to avoid a relapse into conflict. Military support to peacebuilding may include, for example, units rebuilding roads, re-establishing or creating government entities, or the training of defense forces. Protection of shipping. When necessary, U.S. forces provide protection of U.S. flag vessels, U.S. citizens, whether embarked in U.S. or foreign vessels, and their property against unlawful violence in and over international waters. With the consent of the flag state, this protection may be extended to foreign flag vessels under international law. Protection of shipping includes coastal sea control, harbor defense, port security, counter-mine operations, and environmental defense, in addition to operations on the high seas. It requires the coordinated employment of surface, air, space, and subsurface units, sensors, and weapons, as well as a command structure both ashore and afloat, and a logistics base. Protection of shipping is accomplished by a combination of operations. Area operations, either land-based or sea-based, are designed to prevent a hostile force from obtaining a tactical position from which to attack friendly or allied shipping. This includes ocean surveillance systems that provide data for threat location and strike operations against offending bases or facilities. Threats not neutralized by area operations must be deterred or addressed by escort operations. Generally, escorts are associated with convoys, although individual ships or a temporary grouping of ships may be escorted for a specific purpose. Mine countermeasures operations are integral to successful protection of shipping and are an essential element of escort operations. An example of protection of shipping is Operation Earnest Will, the reflagging of Kuwaiti ships in 1987. Environmental defense operations provide for coordinated Coast Guard/DoD response to major pollution incidents both at home and overseas. These incidents have the potential for grave damage to natural resources, the economy, and military operations. Show of force operations. These operations, designed to demonstrate U.S. resolve, involve increased visibility of U.S. deployed forces in an attempt to defuse a specific situation that, if allowed to continue, may be detrimental to U.S. interests or national objectives. U.S. forces deployed abroad lend credibility to U.S. promises and commitments, increase its regional influence, and demonstrate its resolve to use military force if necessary. In addition, the NCA orders shows of force to bolster and reassure friends and allies. Show of force operations are military in nature but often serve both political and military purposes. These operations can influence other governments or politico-military organizations to respect U.S. interests as well as international law. A show of force involves the appearance of a credible military force to underscore U.S. policy interests or commitment to an alliance or coalition. Political concerns dominate a show of force. Military forces conduct these operations within legal and political constraints. The force coordinates its operations with the country teams affected. A show of force can involve a wide range of military forces, including joint U.S. military or multinational forces. Additionally, a show of force may include or transition to joint or multinational exercises. As an example of a show of force, Operation JTF Philippines was conducted by U.S. forces in 1989 in support of President Aquino during a coup attempt against the Philippine government. During this operation, a large Special Operations Force was formed. USAF fighter aircraft patrolled above rebel air bases, and 2 aircraft carriers were positioned off the Philippines. Different types of MOOTW. Recovery operations. Conducted to search for, locate, identify, rescue, and return personnel or human remains, sensitive equipment, or items critical to national security. These operations are generally sophisticated activities requiring detailed planning in order to execute them, especially when conducting them in denied areas. They may be clandestine, covert, or overt. Other recovery operations may be conducted in friendly areas, particularly when the HN does not have the means to provide technical assistance in conducting the recovery. An example of a recovery operation is Operation Full Accounting, conducted to account for and recover the remains of U.S. service members lost during the Vietnam War. Strikes and raids. Strikes are offensive operations conducted to inflict damage on, seize, or destroy an objective for political purposes. Strikes may be used for punishing offending nations or groups, upholding international law, or preventing those nations or groups from launching their own offensive actions. A raid is usually a small-scale operation involving swift penetration of hostile territory to secure information, confuse the enemy, or destroy installations. It ends with a planned withdrawal upon completion of the assigned mission. An example of a strike is Operation Urgent Fury, conducted on the island of Grenada in 1983. An example of a raid is Operation El Dorado Canyon, conducted against Libya in 1986, in response to the terrorist bombing of U.S. service members in Berlin. Joint Pub 3-02, Joint Doctrine for Amphibious Operations, provides specific guidance on amphibious raids. Military operations on urbanized terrain, MOUT. Throughout history, military planners have viewed cities as centers of gravity. As such, in war, cities are something to be either protected or taken away, depending upon one's perspective. MCDP-1, Warfighting. Cities house the population centers, transportation hubs, seats of government, sources of wealth, centers for industry, information networks, and key nodes of communication within a nation. Recent forecasts based on population statistics and the worldwide migration trend from agrarian to industrialized societies predict that 85% of the world's population will reside in urbanized areas by the year 2025. As the world trend toward urbanization increases, the military significance of cities is likely to increase proportionally. Urbanized areas, themselves, may be significant sources of future conflict. Cities historically are where radical ideas ferment, dissenters find allies, mixtures of people cause ethnic friction, and discontented groups receive media attention. Adversaries may focus on the capture of radio and television stations in an attempt to influence public opinion and attain their political goals. Our political leaders may take advantage to neutralize or stabilize some extremely volatile political situations, or to provide assistance to allies in need of support, by deploying U.S. forces into urban environments. The Marine Corps' role in urban warfare. As the nation's force in readiness, forward deployed with expeditionary forces, Marines must be prepared to fight on urbanized terrain. In the past 2 decades, MAGs ranging in size from MEFs, Saudi Arabia, Desert Shield/Desert Storm, Somalia, Restore Hope, through Marine Expeditionary Units, MIUs, Beirut, Lebanon, Grenada, Urgent Fury, Somalia, Eastern Exit, and Restore Hope, have participated in MOUT. The task organization and combined arms aspect of the MAGTF makes it well suited for combat on urbanized terrain. The results of geographical studies show that 60% of politically significant urban areas outside Allied or former Warsaw Pact territory are located along or within 25 miles of a coastline, 75% are within 150 miles, 87% are within 300 miles, 95% are within 600 miles, and all are within 800 miles. U.S. embassies and diplomatic facilities are primarily located in cities where the host country's political and economic leadership is concentrated. The Marine Corps will continue to play a prominent role in future evacuations of U.S. citizens, as well as the conduct of peace, counterinsurgency, and contingency operations centered on urbanized areas. Today's Marine Air Ground Task Forces, MAGTF, are deployed as part of Naval Expeditionary Forces, NEFs, that maintain a global forward presence for rapid crisis response. These integrated combined arms forces are part of the nation's proven contingency and naval power projection force. Therefore, Marines may find themselves rapidly deployed and employed in actions across the spectrum of military operations. Many of these trouble spots will likely be located in or around large urban centers. In the years since World War II, the United States has employed military force more than 200 times. Of these, 4 out of 5 involved naval forces, and the majority of the naval efforts included Marines embarked in amphibious ships. The reasons are straightforward: availability and adaptability. Availability derives from the loiter time of forward deployed forces embarked on amphibious shipping. Adaptability comes from the Marine Corps' MAGTF organization, doctrine, training, and equipment, which prepare us for expeditionary missions from the sea in support of a variety of missions, including forcible entry. Enhancing our adaptability are the Maritime Prepositioning Forces, MPFs. MPFs provide a rapid buildup of combat and logistics equipment that is joined with Marines on a distant shore, creating a substantial combat force. Despite our availability and adaptability, the prospect of urban warfare combined with an amphibious assault is a complex task, which requires special preparation. At the outset of a developing situation, forward-deployed expeditionary forces can move quickly within range of a crisis that threatens the political stability of a country. Urban intervention operations must often be planned and executed in a matter of hours or days, rather than weeks or months, to take advantage of the internal turmoil surrounding a developing crisis. Navy and Marine forces should anticipate deployment to urbanized areas on a day-to-day basis. Examples of Mount: Stalingrad, 1942 to 1943. The tenacious Soviet defense of Stalingrad cost the attacking Germans dearly in every way and set up conditions for a decisive counteroffensive. This classic urban battle involved large forces and resulted in innovative urban combat techniques and the creation of the highly successful storm groups, task-organized assault units. Length of battle, greater than 30 days, casualties, 1,630,000 plus. Seoul, 1950. Following the Incheon landing, U.S. and Republic of Korea, ROK, forces recaptured the South Korean capital from the North Korean. The fighting was unusual in that combat was largely centered on seizure of street barricades rather than buildings. Length of battle, 6 to 13 days, casualties, Marines, 2,383, others, estimated in the thousands. Quang Tri 1 and 2, 1972. An objective of the North Vietnamese 1972 Winter-Spring Offensive was the capture of Quang Tri, the northernmost major city in South Vietnam. The NVA overwhelmed the Army, Republic of Vietnam, ARVN, defenders. Later, the city was recaptured by a smaller ARVN force using extensive artillery and air support. The large conventional forces involved on both sides made Quang Tri 1 and 2 the major urban battles of the Vietnam War. Length of battle, Quang Tri I, 6 to 13 days, Quang Tri 2, 30 days or greater, casualties, battles combined, 30,000 plus. Fallujah, Iraq, 2004. First battle, April 4, 01 May 2004. The largest combat mission since the declaration of the end of major hostilities, the First Battle of Fallujah marked a turning point in public perception of the ongoing conflict. This was because insurgents, rather than Saddam loyalists, were seen as the chief opponents of U.S. forces. The battle also pushed Abu Musab al-Zarqawi into the public spotlight as the best-known commander of anti-coalition forces in Iraq, and brought public attention to the concept of a Sunni triangle. Length of battle 30 days, casualties, 27 U.S. service members were killed. Fallujah, Iraq, 2004. Second battle, 7 November–December 23, 2004. A joint American, Iraqi and British offensive in November and December 2004, considered the highest point of conflict in Fallujah, Iraqi war. It was led by the U.S. Marine Corps against Iraqi insurgency stronghold in the city of Fallujah and was authorized by the U.S.-appointed Iraqi interim government. The U.S. military called it some of the heaviest urban combat U.S. Marines have been involved since the Battle of Hue City in Vietnam in 1968. Length of battle, greater than 30 days. Casualties, coalition forces had suffered 107 killed and 613 wounded during Operation Phantom Fury. Examples of Mount Marja, February 2010. Operation Moshtarak, Dari for Together or Joint, was an International Security Assistance Force (ISAF) pacification offensive in the town of Marja, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. It involved 15,000 American, Afghan, Canadian, Estonian, Danish and British troops and constituted the largest joint operation of the war in Afghanistan up to that point and aimed to remove the Taliban from Marja and eliminate the last Taliban stronghold in central Helmand Province. The main target of the offensive was the town of Marja, which had been controlled for years by the Taliban as well as drug traffickers. Although Moshtarak was described as the largest in Afghanistan since the fall of the Taliban, it was originally supposed to be the prelude to a much larger offensive in Kandahar that would follow Moshtarak by several months. However, ISAF chose to heavily publicize the operation before it was launched, comparing its scope and size to the 2004 Second Battle of Fallujah, in the hopes that Taliban fighters in the town would flee. The operation was also designed to showcase improvements in both the Afghan government and Afghan security forces. ISAF claimed that the operation was Afghan-led would use 5 Afghan brigade. General Stanley A. McChrystal, the commander of ISAF, also promised that following the offensive ISAF would install a government in a box in Marja. Although initially successful, ISAF and the Afghans failed to set up a working government in the town, leading to a successful resurgence by the Taliban. 90 days into the offensive, General McChrystal famously referred to it as a bleeding ulcer. In October, the town was still described as troubling, but by early December 2010 the fighting there was declared essentially over. Length of battle, 11 months. The number of coalition casualties could not be disclosed. However, intelligence sources in the early days of the fighting estimated 120 Taliban fighters killed. Non-combatants' impact on urban warfare. Large concentrations of non-combatants, civilians, can greatly impede tactical operations and have the following effects on military operations. Mobility. Non-combatants attempting to escape the battle space can block military movement. Commanders plan routes to be used by civilians and seek the assistance of the civil police in refugee control. Firepower. The presence of non-combatants can restrict the use of firepower. Areas may be designated no-fire areas to prevent non-combatant casualties. Other areas may be limited to small arms fire and grenades. The control of fire missions may be complicated by the requirement for positive target identification. Detailed guidance on the use of fires in the presence of non-combatants is promulgated by the MAGTF commander. In the absence of guidance, the general rules of the law of land warfare apply. Security. The presence of non-combatants increases security requirements in an urban environment to preclude non-combatants entering defensive areas, pilferage of equipment, sabotage, terrorism. Obstacle employment. The presence and movement of non-combatants will influence the MAGTF's commander's obstacle plan. Minefields may not be allowed on designated refugee routes or, if allowed, must be guarded until the passage of refugees is completed. The use of booby traps may be curtailed until non-combatants have been evacuated. Commanders need to review and understand current national and international treaties concerning the employment of mines and booby traps. The principles of the operational maneuver from the sea, OMFTS. Operational maneuver from the sea focuses on an operational objective, uses the sea as maneuver space, generates overwhelming tempo and momentum, pits strength against weakness, emphasizes intelligence, deceptions, and flexibility, integrates all organic, joint, and combined assets.